Welcome to the Capula podcast, the Ultimate Exchange. I'm Neil White, Digital Sales Lead for Capula, and I'm joined today by my co-host, Richard Stone, Head of Digital.
Good morning. Thank you for having me here, Neil.
Okay, no problem. Lovely to see you. And today we're delving into a really interesting topic around the impact of the manufacturing industry. You know, in today's fast-paced world, manufacturing industries are facing numerous problems around sort of disruptions that have an impact on production, supply chain effectiveness, and generally the overall operation of a business. And today what we're going to look at is how those disruptions occur in four main areas, predominantly people, process, production, and culture.
Thanks, Neil. Just picking up that disruption management, it's critical for maintaining efficiency and resiliency. One of the things we've noticed over the years, OEE itself as a measure is great, but it tends to focus on the asset and forgets the bigger picture that you just mentioned. To maximise OEE, we need to look at how these external influences affect OEE and the production facilities itself. So if for a start, we go and focus on the people component and then go and explore that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. From a Capula perspective, we put a lot of emphasis and importance around, the engagement around employees and people, particularly in terms of the early stages of OEE projects. But from your perspective, I mean, why do you think that's so critical?
Typically, if I look over my last 20, 30 years of experience, projects have focused on the equipment, the asset itself, and it forgets the people and the effect they have and the resistance to change that happens if you don't include the people. To find the true value of OEE, including the people and the process and the change, is critical. If we do that right, communications, engage the people, they see how it can actually simplify their work and their roles as well.
Yeah. No, absolutely agree. And, certainly from my experience, sort of seeking feedback during sort of project implementation phases certainly supports the identification in terms of what disruptions might or may not be occurring. But also it definitely fosters that relationship and generating and supporting, boosting employees' engagements. And it's all around sort of supporting a culture of inclusion and continuous improvement. Okay, Richard, so moving on from people, let's talk around processes. I mean, we both know that inefficient processes are a significant barrier in terms of OEE targets. Adopting lean manufacturing principles, regularly optimizing processes, definitely can eliminate waste and boost productivity. But there's more to it than just sort of equipment and staff interactions. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely, Neil. I'm giving an example from a company I worked for several years ago. They were looking at disruption around engagement of maintenance. Yeah. And it was believed they didn't have enough maintenance people. Well, what it turned out to be, they're actually getting extended downtimes because they weren't able to alert the maintenance team they got a downtime. And then when actually downtime occurred, how do you optimise which faults you go and deal with first? Yeah. And as a consequence, these downtimes become longer. Yeah. What they did is a very simple solution, a very simple press of a button, make an alert, use an and-on system, and those maintenance teams knew instantly where the problems were. And as a consequence, they really minimise the impact and disruption of this communications.
Okay, now excellent topic. I mean, and let's not forget about sort of utility consumption as well. Typically within OEE projects, a manufacturer wants to minimise production or maximise production rates, but at what cost? Pushing processes too hard can have an impact on quality, rework, speed, and obviously energy uses as well.
Yeah, agree, Neil. With the focus around sustainability, there's a term that got coined many years ago called wages for water, air, gas, energy, steam that's coming to fruition again, and it helps us monitor those assets, the production in real time to see what energy is being used, because it's all too easy to push for production output, but as a consequence, we might be using more energy, and effectively you're not in a sustainable environment.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And, those two really interesting topics around sort of people and process. Okay, so we've covered sort of people and process, but let's now move on to the production aspect as well. There are many benefits around implementing disruption management into OEE strategies. And then let's look at Capula's perspective. We've done some excellent projects very recently, particularly one with an aerospace manufacturer, where we've been able to reduce downtime by 30% using sort of predictive analytics. Do you want to touch on that in a bit more detail?
Yeah, so as you say, this was in the aerospace sector, and it is again disruption. And we've talked a lot about in the industry about predictive analytics and how it can be used. What it does is allow us to see and learn from the past, predict into the future what may happen. And as this company, as a consequence, they were able to drive the environmental impact, their compliance, and ultimately drive down productivity costs. And over that period of a year, they saved several hundred of thousands of pounds of savings and avoidance of costs due to disruption.
Yeah, and actually, if you look at it in the round, they deployed some quite simple techniques in terms of sort of combining, contextualizing their data sources across their OT and IT domains, and then started to use some rich visualization techniques and machine learning models, simply so they could analyze productivity, environmental and process challenges, and so forth. And that's really what drove a significant percentage improvements across their processes. Okay, so certainly, last but not least, let's focus on the culture aspect. You know, a company's culture plays a significant role in sort of meeting any type of targets, in particular OEE targets as well. And a lack of focus on continuous improvement or innovation within an organization definitely can be a hindrance. Therefore, certainly I believe, you know, leadership plays a real pivotal role in terms of a culture of excellence and allowing improvements to be ingrained across the organization and the business as a whole. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely, Neil. And we've seen this many a times. That leadership and open communications and involving everyone is critical to this, because ultimately this is a collaboration from the shop floor to the enterprise to make these improvements and minimise disruption. And at the end of the day, it's a shared commitment to a goal and reaching these achievements.
Agreed.
And that's why we've talked about these 4 areas: the people, the process, the production. And the one that gets often forgotten is the cultural side of this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, they're 4 really important topics. I mean, and then just sort of looking ahead, we've covered those 4 key areas. And, you know, as the manufacturing industry is going to evolve, disruption management will become increasingly important, you know, in addition to OEE as well. And by addressing that within sort of the broader context, you know, organizations definitely can unlock new levels of productivity and resilience within their organization.
Yeah, so just recapping what we said, that it's a competitive landscape today. If we're going to maintain efficiency and sustainability, managing all this disruption that goes on throughout the enterprise is really critical. We need to maintain customer satisfaction. We need to have an environmental stewardship. Yeah. And this is all important part of disruption management.
Okay, lovely. Thanks, Richard. And thank you for listening to the Capula podcast, The Ultimate Exchange. Feel free to message us via our website or LinkedIn.
Thank you very much.